Favorite Brian Harmon?
Yeah, I get that's the world we're living in. Brian Harmon, what a world. That's what we're going to find out right now. Right now here at Stokastic, PGA DFS strategy show presented by PrizePicks, the RSM Classic, the last event of the swing season. We're here to break it all down. I am Ben Rasa. I'm joined by Geoff Ulrich, Tyler behind the glass. It's going to be fun. We're going to get into it. Tony Finau's withdrawn. We'll talk about what we need to do to attack Sea Island. We'll talk about this field. Talk about anything else we want. I just had a wild NFL show with Lofty. The topics there will never be repeated in a show, but we're on the golf last tournament. How you feeling? We're going to finish strong, aren't we?
Yeah, we were kind of all over it last week. If
we were.
We really were. The guys we were talking up, the Woodlands, the Wyndham Clarks of the world. Obviously, we both really like going Finau over Scheffler. I should have made so much money last week, and I didn't because
Correct.
all my guys bombed out. Just not bombed out, but just didn't get in the top 10 at the end. So it was a letdown week considering how right we were about this tournament. And then obviously I didn't bet Finau. I bet Jason Day and Thigala instead. So, but yeah, it was nice. It's still a strong week, but felt like definitely left some on the table.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I didn't play a lot of DFS, and when I did, I chose South Africans that were just terrible. Burmeister and EVR. We can just, I don't even want to talk about that. Betting should have made more money. Wyndham Clark, Patrick Rogers, those types helped a little bit getting inside the top 20, but no one was able to knock on the top 5 door for me. But still, we're seeing the board correctly.
Yeah.
We've got a good tournament here, and that part is exciting. I don't have a ton of takeaways. Noren was up there. That was another guy that certainly we're always drawn to. Who the hell is, I don't even know his first name still. Who is T. Alexander?
Oh, Tyson.
Your boy.
Come on, get it with the Mike Tyson. Get with the knockout here.
Seriously.
Yeah, 34-year-old grinder. Really popped up out of nowhere last week, for being dead honest. He won the same event on the Corn Ferry Tour 2 years in a row, and he finally got the card last year. I don't really have anything to say. I think it's just a 1 week pop. It's really good for him. He's basically secured his card for next year, but I'm not chasing it or anything. I know his odds this week have not moved. He's still 250 to 1, but
yeah.
You could definitely look to sprinkle, but I don't necessarily see anything. I guess you could say he's a veteran player playing on a course that favors veterans, but yeah, it's just a nice story really for me. He struck it well, kind of did everything well. Probably would have won if Tony Finau wasn't around. So
good for that guy. Yeah. It was just, even Molinax was up there. Another player, Jaeger, was in the top 10. So there was a lot to build on. Justin Rose was up there. That's a name we're going to have to get to, but we do turn the page. Is there anything else from Houston that you want to talk about before we move to Sea Island?
Yeah, kind of.
Sure.
It's just Finau. What are your thoughts on Finau's futures right now? I went to look at them after. I was pretty surprised you could still get 25 to 1 or bigger pretty much at every major. I really feel you can't. How much more do we want to see from Finau until we're he should be shorter than 20 to 1? I feel like those are fantastic odds for him. I'm going to be investing probably in a couple over the next month. I don't think they're going to move too much over the next month. So yeah, I think he's going to win a major next year. That's my take.
No, and I don't think that's even a hot take. No. I wanted to kind of just probe a little more. I haven't looked at this. When you picture Tony Finau winning a major, right, is he wearing a green jacket? Is he is he in Europe? Is he at the U.S.? Where is he?
That's the other thing though. I think he's proven it to us at this point that, maybe let's leave the Open out of it, because the Open is just a crapshoot anyways. I think he could do it at any of the first 3. He's top 10 at Augusta the first time. We know he hammers the par 5s, and what has improved from him? The short game and the putting, right? I think he could absolutely get it done at Augusta. I think if someone's going to upset Rory there, it's probably going to be Tony Finau. So I don't really have a take about the courses at the PGA or USA Open yet. I haven't done, again, this is preliminary, just galaxy brain stuff, but I can't see the US Open venue being bad for Tony Finau either. So I would kind of just I'm thinking about just betting him across the board, the first 3. Maybe he gets on and even ships too, but I'd be fine with him at Augusta. I really do. I think that's a spot where he could get it done eventually.
I'm with you there at Augusta. And I've always kind of used this formula. And I mean, sadly, Rory almost fits it at this point, where it's guys that they've gotten experience. Rory's obviously knocked on the door a little more, but like Patrick Reed is the easiest example because I loved him the year he won, where it was like, he didn't stand out, but he had played, like Tony Finau has played Augusta now 3-4 times, and he makes the cut because it's a super easy cut to make. Slid into the top 10. He was in 5th, gotten those reps, and then, you connect Decky. Like, it's that same concept, and I think Finau could be next in line there. He, rightfully so. I'm not even remotely shocked, to bring it back a little bit, that he's not playing this week. He's earned a rest.
Yeah. What incentive is there, right?
No.
You go, the weather doesn't look that good. You play in 2 different courses. I mean, yeah, it's probably smart by him.
Yeah, it's certainly smart by him. And again, he is rolling. That's really my biggest takeaway. He sets up to be a serious threat. And I do think the last thing I'll say, and then we will move to Sea Island, talk about PrizePicks just a second as well. The expectations, I think, definitely have changed. The stupid narrative that Tony Finau can't win is obviously dead and buried, as it always should have been.
Exactly. I mean, that's like, yeah, winning is just, it's just so tough that you
fluky.
It is. I mean, you just keep putting yourself in position. And I mean, that was the narrative around Kevin Na for a lot before he won Casey. Like 3 times, yeah. So you've got to keep on these guys. And like, I was never, I admit, like, I mean, I was never a guy who was betting Tony Finau consistently, mainly just because of the odds. The odds got to a point where it was I just didn't think it was good enough to keep investing in it. But at the same time, like, this is, you shouldn't be surprised now, like, if that we've gotten like 3 or 4 wins from him in a row. I think this was always coming. So unless there was some kind of injury or something, because the talent is just so obviously there for Finau.
Absolutely. The talent is there. It's going to be a big year for him. The expectations will be there as well. But let's move to Sea Island. Let's move even before that to our friends who power the show. They've been with us the entire swing season. PrizePicks.com. A great site, one that I know a lot of you are familiar with, but if you're tuning in for the first time, if you haven't signed up over there, how about getting 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum and up to a $100 deposit bonus with PrizePicks when you sign up and make that deposit? Use the link in the description of this video. You see it on the screen. We're going to match that first deposit. What you're doing there, if you're in a state that doesn't have betting, not legal just yet, PrizePicks is kind of that next level. You're projecting over under on different players, different stats, different categories. You can build them up. You build 3, 4, 5. You get up to 10x if you hit them. If you go 4 or 5, you make money. So it's just very similar to what we're doing already. We're projecting different stats. And the thing we talk about every week, Geoff, they've got categories that you simply can't get elsewhere. Fairways hit and some of these birdie or better props that we can kind of look at the weather and play that game over at PrizePicks.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, 2 courses in play this week, obviously. So when the stuff comes out, make sure you're taking that into account. Again, Plantation course, par 72. So way more birdie opportunities. These courses basically play the same length too, despite that. So definitely a week where, again, I'm kind of interested to see what they come out with. I'm definitely going to be over the golf or onto some golf, I should say, assuming we get like the full breadth of like maybe some green and reg props or fairways hit. And the greens and regs here tend to be like, this doesn't have smaller greens like a lot of these shorter courses. So green and regs tend to be pretty high. Fairways hit very high here. It's kind of a linksy style course with bigger fairways. So just keep that in account when you're looking at the stuff that comes out.
Yep. And again, you're getting 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, which means you're getting all our tools for all our sports for a month. That's over $100 value just by signing up and depositing. Let's get into it. You mentioned the 2-course strategy. This not strategy. That's just what we have to deal with here at Sea Island. We had a question about what skill sets, if you're building up a model and things like that. Obviously, ball striking always, I think, is kind of, it travels everywhere. It's the great equalizer. Putting is putting. When you think about driving distance and off the tee, that's always one that I think is a little variant course to course. Is that something you want to bake in with ball striking, or is this not the week to really care about that?
It's probably not the week to care about it at all.
Yeah.
When you're looking at ball striking, I mean, just you look at the winners. I mean, the Kisners, the Austin Cooks of the world. it's just not something that they do well. So when we're talking about ball striking from players like that, it's basically mid to short irons that they're really hammering home. So even just looking last year, Taylor Gooch lost strokes off the tee. Not the strength of his game really either. So he's probably not as incompetent as some of those other players I mentioned, and even going down to like Tyler Duncan or something. But I think with like when you're looking at like off the tee or ball striking stats, I don't think you need to look at like driving accuracy, but it doesn't hurt, I guess. When you're looking at players and what they're doing off the tee and ball striking, but I really just boiling it down to pure approach stats here for me is the way to go. You can look at those proximity numbers, 175 to 125 yards in that basket and see who's trending well. But really this course just completely takes off the tee, even more so than some of the other shorter courses. Like there's these fairways aren't tight like we get at RBC Hilton Head. It's not like claustrophobic at like Colonial. This is just like a really kind of wide open, like links little short course. So I think if anything, out of all these venues, this is where off the tee gets de-emphasized the most. Do you think that,
obviously the weather will determine some of this. You got to go low, grind it out. Like, usually around the greens, one of the kind of swings, if you're getting up and down and scrambling, maybe you're saving for par. Whereas in some of these courses, even if you're getting up and down, you're losing strokes to the field because you need to be on the green putting for birdie.
Yeah. One thing, again, like this is taking me maybe like a few years to realize, but I feel like the short games around some of these courses, like players who do well on these courses, the short games are different. Like it's like you need to be getting up and down from like shorter distances, if that makes sense. Like it's not big, expansive golf courses we're playing. You're not really having like 40 shots out, like 40 yards out, up and downs. It's like you're just in the bunker right beside the green, or you're just off the green because
12 yards.
Yeah, like you're not missing. It's not huge misses here when you miss the green. So I think there's something to be said for you want a player with a good short game, but it's kind of got to be like a specific kind of short game. Like that's why we see these Kisners and Harmons do well here all the time. They're just really good at these like tight lies, kind of tight shots. So, and I do think that around the green game is going to matter a little bit more this week. The weather, as you brought up, like it's going to be cold, man. Like it's under 60 in terms of the highs all 4 days, overcast. So I'd be expecting like the ball striking to be a little bit tougher just from the cooler air. Maybe that brings length a little bit more into it, but I just don't think this course is long enough to really worry about length too much. I think it'll bring the short games in a little bit more for sure. Could see lower greens and regs. And I think that again, it could just lead to a more random winner too. A guy who is down there with a good short game, maybe isn't like striking it like some of the other top players, but he'll gain you like, 5 strokes around the greens or something. So I could see someone pop up this week. I think that the weather and the way it's looking, it's kind of leaning towards that kind of winner. Wouldn't shock me.
Well, one thing we know for sure is that the win equity up top isn't exactly immense. And Tony Finau has withdrawn. So let's get it started. The top tier, there are 2 players north of 10K, Seamus and Brian Harman. It's not even... It's weird to talk about this because it's not really like a true top tier now without Finau, but we'll just knock these 2 guys out and then we'll go to the 9s. What do you make of Harman and Seamus at these price points, given the field and just given the price point?
I don't even know. You certainly don't have to play them. I guess
No.
we know we've been talking about Seamus. Obviously you've been a proponent of him and this is a good, it's really like the type of courses where he's been dominating at. So I think there's 2 ways to look at it. The one kind of, I don't even know how many people are going to be stacking like the top 3 players, or like going power Harman and like, maybe one other player from the 9s. I think that from that perspective, you're still getting really good floors with power and Harman, given the way they're playing and just given the setup for them. Obviously the win equity, you're paying up for players who just don't have the normal win equity in this range that we get. Like there's they're probably no different in terms of outright win percentages than like Damon or like McCarthy, but you're still getting solid floors and players who have, played a lot of these type of courses. So I think that for DFS, using both players and like really stacking the 9K range, I think it'll be somewhat unique, but at the same time, we just have so few options now that I don't even know if it's going to be that unique. So Maybe just going hyper balanced is really going to be like starting with like McCarthy is going to be the other way to go. So I don't have a strong take on either one of these. If you're asking me which one to play, I'd probably just keep rolling Power. He just looks so confident. I think he's coming into this field again. And he's just looking like, hey, I mean, I've done this twice already this year against these guys. I mean, why not make it a third? So Harman's a guy too, always a little bit hard to get right. Very random when his putter is going to show up. And sometimes even with the ball striking can certainly get it done, but really no difference between, you know, a 10,300 Harman and like Neesmith at 9,000 for me. So
that's I don't think I shouldn't say anyone. If you double up and you play Harman and Seamus together, you're going to have a really different looking lineup this week because everyone naturally sees what we see and is saying like, what's the difference between these guys and the nines? Let me save money. Like, why would I pay for this? And that makes sense. But at the same time, these guys their win equity is not as high as it would be to another 10K player, but they still are amongst the most likely winners of the tournament. That's a fact. There's no doubt about it. Seamus has really struggled here. I think that's more that he wasn't that good of a player 4 or 5 years ago. I don't really care about that. If I had to pick him or Brian Harman, I would pick Seamus. But I think we're already into the discussion that we're going to really spend the most time on is just like, would you rather play Tom Hoge? Would you rather play Jason Day? I mean, you're saving money and you're getting what a lot of people could argue is a better player.
Yeah. I mean, again, we're talking like pure best plays value. Yeah. I mean, I think Hoge and Day are where it's at.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, again, is there anyone that it affects? I almost wonder if the Finau withdraw affects anyone more than Jason Day. I mean, I think Day may be looking at himself now in this field and being like, you know, I'm potentially the best player here right now. And it feels like maybe he just gets a little bit of confidence boost from that. I'm just kind of just thinking this through in my mind right now, you know, trying to do circles here so I can bet Jason Day again, but I don't hate it. Day's played really well at Pebble Beach in the past. He did top 12 at this event 2 years ago when, again, he was struggling with injuries. So the thing that bothers me about Day is we just haven't seen the putter show up. And if it doesn't show up this week, he's not winning. Like he's not going to grind out a 12 under par win at this course. He needs to get low. He needs to get to 18, 19 under, but the ball striking's there. I mean, it is there. So I think Hoge is, again, you know, really well set up for this. He's won at Pebble Beach, but Day is really intriguing to me at this point. I'm going to get some exposure to him. If he comes here and wins after, you know, me kind of investing over the fall, it would be pretty
devastating. He's starting to get it together. I know the putter isn't like atomic or anything.
Yeah.
He was positive last week, and the last time at RSM, he gained over 5 strokes putting. So there are some dots to possibly connect with Jason Day. I obviously have no interest in Taylor Montgomery. We saw him lose half a stroke putting, and that is all it takes because the rest of his game is just not as good as the other 9K players. No problem with Hollywood Hoge. I have trouble. The last 4 names in the 9s to me are very interesting evaluations. So we were both, I think, pretty high on Keith Mitchell, and he responded 7.2 with the ball striking, gained another 1.5 with the putter. Dahman, more of an iron guy. McCarthy, a putting guy, and Neesmith, maybe the best iron guy. Where do you look here? You know, a lot of these guys have played a good amount in swing season already.
Yeah, I think that like where we're looking right now, where I'm looking right now, I mean, this just feels so perfect for Matthew Neesmith. I mean, it really reminds me of Taylor Gooch coming in here last year too. Elite iron player, had played well in the fall, put together some top 10s, kind of had a bit of a letdown the week before, then just came and kind of just closed the door. Neesmith's got experience playing here. He's shown that his putter's been pretty confident all fall. Again, like this is a player who just about won earlier in the year at the Valspar. He was second already on the swing season at the Shriners. Like this is a tailor-made course for a guy who's from the South, who has an elite iron game, doesn't do much off the tee anyways, but certainly not going to get in trouble this course off the tee. And I just like him as a player. I think he's consistent. I think if the weather gets bad, that'll be fine for him too. It'll just put more pressure on people's iron plays, which is good for him. So that's where I would go. But like you said, like McCarthy, I mean, he's the archetype here that we kind of want to target. And I mean, he's way more inconsistent. We target him and he lets us down, and then he pops up the next week. But, like a Neesmith McCarthy starting point is pretty interesting to me. I think that you could get crazy like that on the other side of it and really go low and start with those guys and think about like some kind of hyper balance build too. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear to me that, we're already talking about a crazy variant sport, but like Denny McCarthy is the wildest of the bunch because it's the putter. And I'll even allude just to the sample size of RSM. In 2020, he missed the cut here. He lost 1.6 strokes putting. Ball striking was average at best. In 2019, the ball striking was average at best, and he came in 8th because he gained 8 strokes putting. Nothing else changed. That's just what happens. And you're just dealing with a guy there that does it differently. Neesmith, Dahmen, you would be more in an outlier situation if they gain strokes putting like McCarthy. So I get it. And then my final question here, are you comfortable starting with some of these guys and going, as you kind of alluded to, that hyper balance where you have 3 or 4 guys within $1,000 range of each other?
I think so. I think looking at some of the ownership percentages, you're not going to get super low ownership on a lot of these guys, but you can still make it where your overall ownership isn't that bad with a lot of these players, because you can find players who will probably be, closer to 10 or maybe even sub 10. And then you can just kind of go like that. You don't necessarily need to go, have like 5% own play. And then the other thing is, like, I don't think that many people will be building that way anyways. So it's a tough week to get unique. Like, it really is. Like, we're obviously struggling with it already. We're like, oh yeah, let's put Seamus and Brian Harman together. That sounds great. Or like start at like $9,000 here. It's just not something that you normally do, but you got to think a little bit outside the box this week. I think this could even be a case where maybe leave $1,000 on and go like really like crazy and go with 8K guys. It's just, there's not much difference between the win equity and the guys in the 8K range and the 9K range. We got a couple players, like I said, I think Jason Day kind of probably gets a bump, but like, and Hoagie as well, but everyone else kind of just feels like they're lumped in the same category here. So you want unique, might be a week to just leave a few $100 or even more off.
It definitely is. In weeks like this, again, we're going to talk about it, and we've been talking about it throughout the show. The tools that you can get when you use the PrizePicks promo or anything, it really helps, because sorting through these guys just on what they've been doing, it's so difficult in weeks like this because they're all the same player. If you asked, you have an event with John Rahm in there or something, and you ask who's the best player in this field, basically everyone consolidates around one guy. Maybe you have a hot take. I'm not joking. If you surveyed 100 people and you asked them who's the best player in this field, I would imagine you would get over 30 different golfers amongst those people. Like, you could make a case for dozens of players being quote unquote the best player in this field. Yeah,
you would get a very, very wide.
I don't even know who I would say. I know.
I'm looking right now, and I don't have an answer either. Like, I would probably say like someone like Davis Riley or someone crazy like that. So, and I don't even think that's that crazy. So yeah, that's that's a good take. It's a really good way to think about when you're making lineups too. Again, you can just pick your top 6 and maybe leave 1,000, be like, these are my top 6 favorite players. I don't care about the price. Yeah, that's the kind of field it is. It's kind of event it is too. Like, it's dual courses, like you could get edges on one wave here too. Friday afternoon, I know when I was doing the weather report for our early look article, it was kind of looking like the clearest. The wind may clear up Friday afternoon. So keep an eye on that as well. Wave stacking here, never a bad idea when you've got 2 courses in play.
It's wild. And we're only, let's get to it. Matt Kuchar, Thigala, Patrick Rod. There is no doubt that the winner could easily come from this range of Rogers, Hughes, Pendrith, Webb, Kisner and Rose, Davis Riley. You've got names, guys that have been popping up, getting reps. Webb is like, what a weird blend of players. Wow. How do you think this range goes? Who are the names that stand out?
Thigala really kind of, he really did pay off if you used them last week. Again, just ending with a hot round. I really do gravitate back towards him. I like Patrick Rogers. It was so classic Patrick Rogers.
Yes.
Gets himself in position, just can't take advantage of it. And you can't fault him for losing to Finau, but he didn't lose to Finau. He killed himself on the weekend, which is what he always does. So I don't know. I think biting the bullet and taking the 87 Patrick Rogers, not really something I want to do. I think I'd rather go with Thial again, give him another shot. Again, we got that nice fall kind of swing in there. So I'd rank him the top out of these three. Kuchar, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen for him again. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen at this course. He's definitely playing a little bit better. I think 8,900, even in this field, just feels a little dicey. I mean, I think you can just pay down for Webb or Kisner in this range, which is completely fine. I think that you will actually be getting low ownership on both Simpson and Kisner, which is pretty interesting. Look, Kevin Kisner does this all the time where plays like junk, goes home, takes a week off. And he's like, yeah, RSM, my moneymaker. Let's go. I'm finishing top 5 this week. And I got no qualms going to him. He should peak. If he had any result in the fall, he'd be 15, 20% owned. He's going to be projecting on our ownership. I'll give you guys this one for about 9 to 10%. That's great ownership at 8,300. So yeah, I think Kisner in play for me. I'd rather go to him than up to Cooch.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we've seen it time and time again with Kevin Kisner. Like, look at the results before his RSMs. Sometimes he's playing well, sometimes he's playing awful. It doesn't seem to really correlate. So you can do that. I think to me, the guy that I'm struggling the most with is Justin Rose, because if he didn't play well, there's no chance that he would be an afterthought, but he did. He looked pretty good at Houston. He was 9th. Now he did it a lot with the putter, but that's Justin Rose. That is in some regards like peak Justin Rose. I want to see that with Day. I think it's okay that he leaned on the putter. In some ways, I think it's better that he leaned on the putter. He's here. He's been playing. I mean, you talk long-term, Justin Rose is the best player in this field.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, didn't he pop up at one of the majors this year too? Like, I can't even remember.
He still shows up occasionally.
He's not terrible. Like you said, he's not like the dominant off the tee guy who's going to win the US Open at any point again, but his putter has turned into like a bit of a weapon for him, right? Where he'll go out some weeks and gain like an absurd amount. He's still a veteran player. I mean, if his iron play, if he just starts getting a little bit of confidence on this course, obviously like a very technical player, like everything's kind of got to be lined up for him, but that putter has turned into like a very consistent club. And I mean, again, I think if Justin Rose gets another win on the PGA Tour, and he probably will, it'll probably come at a course like this. So I really don't, it's interesting. Like Simpson, Kisner, Rose. I mean, I don't really have interest in Webb. I don't really know what's going on with him. He dealt with injuries. I think just leaving him out is fine. The Kisner Rose argument is really interesting because like Kisner's course history, absolutely give him some credit, but like Rose still probably the better player here. And coming off like a confidence building week, I don't really have any qualms with someone saying I'm going to play Rose here. And we again, like I'll give you guys some projection stuff. I mean, Rose is projected as our top play kind of in this range. So long term, it looks good. Maybe everyone has their eyes on Day here, and it's Rose who kind of steals the thunder. It wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, I mean, you've got it's a range that's interesting in that regard because you've got guys like that, Kisner, Rose. Mac Hughes in other ways, but it's similar in that he can just go out, and we've seen him do this at RSM. He just gets crazy with the putter. And then on the other side, there is one guy that's completely different. He's more in the Neesmith, Joel Dahman bucket, and it's Taylor Pendrith, who is just really good ball striking, but his short game is so bad that I'm just not sure he can do it. I mean, he's lost around the green and with the putter in 5 straight. Yeah.
The putter was basically just going crazy for Pendrith last year. And this is probably more where he's at, like in terms of average, where he's really solid off the tee and stuff like that. He's going to grind you out a lot of mid cuts, but if that putter just doesn't, pop at the rate that it was, I don't know. I mean, you could definitely make the argument that he's probably like going to be one of the lower owned plays in this range, but I think the other thing with this range is like, I'm just looking, I mean, Mac Hughes, considering what he's done this fall and with the course history, you'd expect him to be one of the top owned plays, but it's really not that projected to be that highly owned. This range is going to spread out a lot. So I don't think you need to get super contrarian here. I'm fine leaving Pendrith out. Again, I have my qualms with Patrick Rodgers at this price. You could definitely go back to him. He's still a high-end putter, and he's obviously popped up at this course before. I mean, he just about won it one year, 60, 61, 62 on the weekend. Absurd stuff, but that was gaining 10 strokes putting as well. So Pendrith and Rodgers, not my favorite plays here. I think Pendrith, especially a guy I'd be out on. And yeah, like a little bit intrigued that like Matt Hughes isn't projecting a little higher. I mean, he's got the perfect blend of like form and course history. So
yeah, for me, and then we can move on to the 7K range. I've soured on Patrick Rodgers a lot more on the betting side of things. I still think for DFS, where coming in 23rd might be able to help you, even though it's not what you're shooting for, is a lot more pertinent. Where on the betting side, like I would bet Thigala and Mac Hughes before I bet Patrick Rodgers.
Yeah.
Now he'll win and I'll miss it, but that's okay. Smalley, Wyndham Clark, Putnam, Rye. I mean, it's all just names at this point. Will Gordon is a name that has launched himself back into relevancy by playing and making cuts. Nick Hardy is a name that I consistently mention on these shows. A guy that I don't think people realize how good he's played. And now we're starting to get where, winning would always be great, but making the cut and giving you a top 20 is starting to really pay off at these price ranges.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Nick Hardy, I agree. Like it's just, his price just seems almost out of whack considering how consistent he's been. But you could say that about Will Gordon as well, right? So I know some people trying to get on the Harris English train here. He's made 4 cuts in a row. I guess, again, like there's this range kind of similar to the 8K range. It just feels like it's not that you can't go wrong, but you can make arguments for everyone from Putnam really right down to like Kirk. I mean, is there anyone here that you like, that we just be egregiously against? There's no one here for me. I am on the Aaron Rye train. I'll throw that out.
His stats are insane. Like,
what he did last week it's something special. I mean, he basically gained, I think 9.6 strokes around the green and putting combined. Weird, but like, this is also a player who, and this is why I like him for DFS and for betting. He's a confident dude. Like he knows what he does well. He went over in Europe and he beat a field. I'm pretty sure it had Rory in it, and he grinded it out on a course where the scoring wasn't that high, and he just kind of grinded everyone down. And like, this is a way better setup for him. His irons can absolutely light up for a week. I wouldn't worry about the ball striking last week, because I think that was more of just, maybe he didn't like the course or the setup was too long, but he gained 7 strokes at the Shriners, his T16 at this event last year. I think this is a player who eventually will find a win on the PGA, because he's just that kind of, player he's good at certain things and he's got self-belief. So I really like him this week. I'm definitely he's on my betting card already. And I think for this range, again, I don't have a problem with a lot of these players. Like I think Harris English is someone you should play at this point. I think Scott Stallings is interesting as well. Going to consider him for betting, but the consistency of Hardy, Smalley, but Andrew Putnam, Putnam's played well. He sets up perfectly for this venue. So you can make a lineup from this range, and I don't even think it would be terrible.
Listen, I get it. I'm with you, but I will say, and maybe I'm taking a stand because it's the swing season. Maybe I'm taking a stand because I want to be dangerous. My favorite guy in this range you did not mention, and maybe it's just because he's just a tad lower. I really like Davis Lipsky. David Lipsky. I was thinking of Davis Riley. He was answering a question from chat. I like David Lipsky quite a bit here. This is a guy, you mentioned Aaron Rye. I see a lot of that with him where he's had some success in Europe. Now he's over here and he's starting to really string it together. 10th at the Worldwide Technology at Mayakoba, 22nd at Houston. Good short game. Around the green's not a problem. He's not really strong off the tee. I don't think he's punished for that here. Lipsky at 75. I think this is a buy. I think this is a guy that we're going to learn is a lot better than people realize.
Really good iron player. Like when he gets those mid to short irons going, he can absolutely just get on fire. Worry a little bit about his around the green game, but you don't miss many greens here. So
yeah, And lately it's been like unsustainably good.
Right. So yeah, I mean, he's put together 4 cuts in a row. I mean, I definitely don't hate it. I think
Positive around the green.
We're looking for players here too, Ben. Like the other thing is like all these guys we mentioned. I mean, everyone is going to have some piece of ownership. I really don't think like he's going to get up there at all. Like, I mean, this is probably a player you may get 5% on. I mean, which in this field, again, very good stuff. So yeah, I don't, again, I mean, we can kind of make arguments for anyone, but he's played well. He's a player I've been on before. He made me some money in Mexico earlier this year. So I'm all about it. Has he ever played here before? I missed the cut here last year. I mean, again, it's one event. Who cares?
Well, that's it.
Interesting.
Hey, take it away.
Yeah.
Done. Dusted. He played here last year? I didn't even know that.
It says he missed the cut. I think it was last year.
Oh. I didn't know that. It doesn't matter, obviously. All right. Let's keep working down because, again, this is a pretty target-rich environment, but we got to try to see where we can find certain players. And now we get to the Mullinax, the Jaeger. Davis Thompson is a name we continuously talk about with the ball striking. Troy Merritt, Taylor Moore, Penny Hahn. I mean, what a mess. Talk to me about Jaeger. We have to start with him. I know he's your guy. Is he going to be on the betting card? Is he going to be in the lineups?
I mean, I don't know where this guy's like should be targeting him. I mean, you think shorter tracks for him. He doesn't hit it big off the tee, but then he pops up with like the top 10 last week. I think I would rather target an extra player. Like I would rather put like Aaron Ryan Lipsky together, I think, this week than Jaeger. I think for DFS, he's fine. He's actually playing. It's so strange because how inconsistent this guy's been throughout his career, but he's playing extremely consistent golf. Like it's absolutely fine. I think it's 7,300 to go back to him. I like Lee Hodges more. Okay. Absolutely like Lee Hodges more. He's just the ball striking is there for him. I think that the iron play for Hodges really will come through for him at this point on this kind of course. He's again, like, and you look at what he's done, he's been pretty consistent, just like bouncing back from missed cuts. It's not a player who's been going in the tank after like one bad round. And I mean, again, he shot 69-73 last week. Not that bad. So I do like Hodges more than Jaeger. And I'll drop the Davis Thompson knowledge. Apparently Davis Thompson has played this course a million times. Some relative of his like works on Sea Island. So he's got a big link to this venue and course. The setup for him is what you call not ideal, I guess, because he's like his strength is off the tee. But typically when we get players in comfortable settings, they at least make us cuts. They don't put in terrible weeks. So just a little bit of knowledge there. I mean, it's make of it what it is. He's been pretty consistent in the fall. I like Hodges though from this range. I think the most of anyone. No problem going back to my guy Jaeger. I don't know. He might get a FOMO bet at the very end, but that's about it.
Yeah, I looked. So no problem with Davis Thompson. I looked at Hayden Buckley and Sig because they've basically made a cut. Every time you've played them, they're fine in the weekend. Yeah. I just don't know, can they pop? Of course. Do I see anything that says this is the week? Not really, to be honest. They're just kind of indifferent plays. Can't play everybody, and I'm going to continue to say like Justin Lower, now that the putter has kind of regressed, probably an odd man out for me. Taylor Moore, probably not really scratching the surface of my lineups. Ben Griffin, I mean, first of all, and I am a fellow member of the clan named Ben, there's an abnormal amount of new players named Ben. Have you noticed this? There's Ben Griffin, Ben Taylor. Ben Martin's always been around. There was another Ben in a tournament the other day. Ben Kern, just like, yeah, it's absurd.
Ben Crane's I confused them all. Too.
Yeah. What are we doing here? I'm not playing this guy. I think we both talked about that. I'd rather play. All right, let me ask you this, because you've talked about Lee Hodges. We've talked about Jaeger. Give me, of these names, if you had to play one, because these are names. These are real players. Yeah. Sepp Straka, Luke List, Svensson, Justin Sue.
Yeah, and I mean, Mullinax you could throw in there too, right?
Yeah, Mullinax. There you go. These are legit names.
I would probably... So... I'd probably go to Mullinax. That's why I threw him in. I mean, I just think that he's a very talented player. But probably doesn't get enough recognition yet. I think that I will not be shocked.
Best player in the field.
Soon. And like for him to be 73 after a T4 last week seems weird. So I would go to Mullinex. I do like Justin Suh this week though. I think he's a really good like contrarian angle. Again, starting to make some cuts, finding some consistencies. This is just another player who, I think we'll find a way on the PGA Tour. He's not big off the tee, but he found a way to grab that Korn Ferry Tour win. He can get real greasy around the greens and with the putter as well. And much like when I was talking up Aaron Rai, I mean, I think that these kind of setups where you'll just see Justin Suh show up one week and kind of just take control. So I think he's a really good contrarian play. I don't think anyone's looking at him this week. I don't know if I'm going to bet him, but definitely like for DFS, again, we're looking in these ranges where I think a lot of these players are going to soak up ownership. That's a player I don't mind taking a shot with this week. Really good young player, wide open event. Why not Justin Suh this week? I mean, I got no qualms about it, but my favorite play is Mullinex in this range. He's just too cheap. And I think he's just the best player. So
yeah, like I said, you'd be on the list. Someone would say, you know what, Trey Mullinex, best player in this field.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can make an argument.
Like if he didn't get a freak accident, I mean, this was a guy, he's competed in some majors. He's a player. Always been a fan of Mullinex. Yeah. I also just like him. I just like the way he plays.
He's got it all, man. Like he's strong off the tee. His short game's improved. He can get it done. Luke
List's putter right now.
Oh dear God.
His putter's never good. Then he has stretches where he's like ice cold. Yeah. He's in a different, I don't have the words to describe what he's doing. Have you seen these putting stats?
Yeah, no. I mean, I don't know how he made the cut last week. Like, it's impressive.
Both, even at the, he's
made 2 cuts in a row too. But I mean,
he's losing 5 strokes putting, not in a tournament, just every week.
There's a place in the Fantastic Four comics called the negative zone they go sometimes. I don't know what exactly happens, but like Luke List is legitimately in the negative zone. I mean, he is legit. He's living in another universe in terms of his putting. It's not even like, I don't know how you could flip it at this point in one event. Like you've got to see him just like not be so bad that he's like not in the bottom 5 first, I think. So that's why I didn't even talk about him in this range. I just don't even want to consider it. I mean, if he pops up this week and gains 5 strokes putting, I might just retire because it's like just too crazy. I mean, to consider
that's too much.
Yeah.
How do you get out of the negative zone?
I think they build some trend. I don't know, actually. That's a good question.
Yeah,
I don't even know why they went there in the first place. It was probably to find some kind of cure or something for something.
The cure for Luke List's putting, they never returned. That just shows how bad we're dealing with. They can't even figure it out in the comic books. I can't do it. I certainly would rather play Justin Suh. Not even close. Well, before we get to the 6s and before we talk about our friends at BetMGM, another way to get a lot of cool stuff with promos. Bo Hostler, Molinar. I mean, they're names. There's definitely names. It's just a lot of guys that, of course, don't have complete games right now.
Yeah. Again, you can talk yourself into a lot of players in this range. Russell Knox, again, tempting us with another top 30. We always like him at these courses. I mean,
what about Streelman?
Streelman, that's a name I could get behind. I mean, that's a player.
Bad.
Again, I mean, not good for him, but like it wasn't too long ago where put 2 cuts together. 71, 72 at a longer golf course, not a big deal. He's a player who just, if he finds confidence with his irons, I mean, and the putter comes, I mean, he'll absolutely be able to get to 16, 18 under on a course like this. So I don't really have a problem like taking a shot with him. Just for DFS purposes anyways. God, Chris Gotterup's here. Has he played this full?
Gotterup, I saw the name and my only thoughts were, honestly, I haven't seen him and he draws so much strength, in my opinion, off the tee. I don't know if he can separate. If he can, more power to him. I just don't see it.
I would much rather, again, I talk about Justin Suh already. If you want to take a shot with a younger player, that's it for me. For the 7K, Streelman is kind of interesting. I wouldn't have a problem like mixing him into GPP builds or core players. I know I took a look at Sam Ryder earlier, but
oh God,
I feel like we had that pop up in Mexico, and at some point he might do it. But I just not really a player I bet that often either. So Streelman's kind of interesting, but after Sue and maybe a little Knox action, I'm kind of just I'd be okay dipping into the 6K range.
Let's do that right now. I will say before we get, and Nerd definitely plays, friend of the show. Stewie was just saying there's all these guys that are playable. It's true. In these weak fields, you absolutely can. Let's talk about BetMGM. You want 2 free months, and I won't be saying this again because golf season's ending, and by the time I get back, it's not going to be the promo anymore. 2 free months of Stokastics plus Platinum when you register at BetMGM Sportsbook. So if you're in a state that has BetMGM and you say, you know what, I bet elsewhere, this would be the time. You're still going to get their risk-free bet, but we're going to give you 2 free months of Stokastic plus Platinum. So all the tools that we've been talking about, that we've been highlighting, the ownership, the projections, everything for golf and everything in between for 2 months just by signing up. Link is in the description of this video. You click there, you follow the instructions, you take it, you place that bet on anything. It doesn't matter. You're getting the risk-free. Take the shot, take advantage there. And then they're going to give you your information to us. We'll get you the 2 free months of Stokastic plus Platinum. A great deal, and one we obviously want you guys to be aware of. Now, man, it is just, but it's funny. It's a double-edged sword, I guess, for me, because when I say, oh man, the 6K golfers in a field like this are terrible, but they're just the same golfers as the 7K range. Honestly, there are names down here. There's plenty of names that we play regularly.
That's kind of why I said, might as well just dip into the 6K range.
Yeah, why not?
Because everyone, I even think there may even be some better players down here, like just in terms of their potential or guys I'd rather target. So I know Scotty in chat, Stewie's thrown out Callum Tarrant. I don't have a problem with that. We saw him pop earlier at the John Deere, another shorter course. He's showed us something. He can definitely compete out here in fields like this. I think going back to him is absolutely fine this week. And again, like Scott Piercy just tends to, you get him in these kind of style of events. He's a little frustratingly inconsistent, but he's starting to show a little bit of something. And, he's a player who has won like multiple times on the PGA. When he really gets it going and he starts to get confidence, he can pop up. I don't have a problem going back to him here either. I think I'd rather play him again and go for the real upside than like take Zach Johnson, who I know makes a cut here every season. So Piercy, Callum Tarrant, those guys in the 6,900 range, that's probably where I'd start thinking about.
I have no issues with those type of guys, and I agree. Listen, getting 6 of 6 is needed for PGA. You got to get your guys through the cut, and that is the key. But it's not that simple as just like, oh, I got 6 through. They also have to play really well, and there's a lot of guys at the bottom of these fields that are more likely to get 6 of 6, but they're way less likely to actually give you a winning score because they're going to come in 53rd. They're going to come in 43rd. They're just not going to have enough upside. And that's something that we really need to try to be aware of. And I'm with you. I'd rather go for it. It's just a sliding scale of like, okay, I say go for it. Does that mean I want to play like Fratelli? Because like, to me, he's got all the talent in the world, but he just doesn't do anything. Higo, miscut upside is gigantic. T dunks. These are names I looked at, but I'm not sure I can click.
Yeah.
Any of them.
Yeah. Again, like probably, setting yourself a limit as playing like one of these guys or something, or like mixing them in, probably wouldn't go that deep in terms of like a single entry lineup or anything like that. But there's definitely players. I always come back to Norlander and these types of events. He's played really well at this course before. Just 2 weeks ago, Mayakoba 15th. Irons and putting. That's what he does. So I'll throw him out there as the player to target. But talent wise, like Fratelli, yeah, you can make the argument. Higo, I don't even know what's going on with this player. What a strange player. Like to just show like have an elite stretch, come in, win, and then just like miss cuts, almost won this fall already. Like I have no idea what's going on with that guy on a week-to-week basis. So I'll stay away.
I'll
But his
give you
upside
one
is there. I mean, he could if he pops and like, I don't know. I have no idea.
Let me ask you this: why? And I'm not saying he's mispriced because like he played god awful last week, but Dean Burmeister was trending towards being like 9,000, and now he's 6,300.
Yeah, the whole Burmeister thing. I mean, I just about forgot about him because he's so far down, and we always go by salary. But like, what is going on with this? I mean, we don't see this very often on DraftKings.
No.
This is like the early days of DraftKings golf where we'd always have like some random guy who should be 8,300 at like 6,300. And he's going to be like, he's going to be chalk. Like people are just going to be like, why? Like, I mean, he's obviously a player who was trending well in the fall. And now DraftKings is basically saying he is Garrett Cago. Like, but is he really Garrett Cago?
He's not.
He's not. He really isn't. I mean, maybe he will be eventually, but I don't think so. So yeah, you're basically getting a little bit of a gift here, I guess. I don't really even know what to do with it because who are you pivoting to in this range? Like
Trevor Cohn. Who the hell is that?
Yeah. Trevor Cohn, our guy, Malnati. No, there's no one.
Chichareva.
It's either you build lineups with Burmeister or you don't. So yeah.
This is where, again, the tools are so important because the thing that's different in golf and I've said this a million times, but it's so important for people that are new. If you're talking about the NBA, if you're the wrong price and you're out there, even if you play shitty, you still usually get there because you just accumulate stats by being out there. You could put Rory at 6K in a golf field and then he could just miss the cut.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. But Dean Burmeister is mispriced, but he also might miss the cut. So if our tools are saying that he's going to be crazy owned, he's going to be an easy fade for me. Not because I think that he's like, it's just worth it to roll the dice. Now, if people don't pick up on this, you can pay up for the studs. There are no studs, but you can pay up and build with 3-4 guys up there and then round out with Burmeister. And he's not much worse than your best players. So that's going to be an obvious situation. If you need salary savings, you got to go to Burmeister if he's not popular.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, those ownership projections, first thing I kind of look for during the week. One interesting note too down here, Ashke Bhatia qualified for this event. He's at 6,500.
Bet him couple weeks ago, he was like 500 to 1.
In Bermuda.
Yeah, he's a talent. Again, he could be the best player in the field. Like 17th last time we saw him. I'd rather take a shot on him than take a shot on like Brian Gay.
Yeah,
who's just actually playing. Brian Gay, I got to give him a shout out. When he does, a lot of it's of course in the Champions Tour, but we saw him when he still gets to the right course. He can still put up a showing.
Yeah, it's impressive. I mean, dude's like 50 now. I mean, and like he hits it like probably as far as like anyone else, like just a regular golfer, but he's good with the rest of his game, man. Still legit. But yeah, Bhatia is, I mean, again, talking about Justin Sue, same kind of deal, like player who could, I think could just pop at any moment in a field like this. So I don't mind O'Hare here either. I think again, like, you want the true upside, it's Bhatia, but O'Hare's got 4 top 20 finishes in his last 10 PGA starts. He's like top up there with tee to green driving accuracy at Bermuda. He had a late double bogey there. He would have been like in the top 8, top 5. So I actually think it's a fair play. He's a better floor than Bhatia for sure. But yeah, both those guys are definitely, I had circled at the 6,500 range. Like Brian Gay probably is in play this week.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy?
It's just crazy to say at this point, but yeah, you could probably play Brian Gay for all the same reasons that I just talked about O'Hare. So
there we have it. Friends. We've arrived at the conclusion of swing season. Of course, when golf returns, we're going to return and we're going to be revamping. We're going to be adding stuff. We just appreciate everyone that stuck with us. I know golf is not on everyone's mind, but for everyone that shows up and supports this show, hits the like button, which really does help us. Subscribe to the channel, share it around, and of course, follow Geoff Ulrich at The Fantasy Grind. You can follow me at JazzRazDFS and just be part of the community. Whether you're taking advantage of PrizePicks or BetMGM, or you're signing up on your own, we just want you as part of the Stokastic family. And we want to give you some of the tools, but we really hope that once you see them and you try some of these things, you stick around because that's what it's all about here. We're going to bounce on out of here. Any final thoughts, Geoff, before we depart?
No, man. It's like you said, like I get it. It's NFL season, but like I had a fucking blast hanging out in the fall swing, doing these shows
much fun,
with you guys. So I love talking about golf. Really just happy to do the show like on a weekly basis with you guys and with Ben, obviously. So yeah, sign up. We'll see you guys. I don't think we're going to be doing the hero because that's
no.
Good.
Okay. Going crazy.
We don't. You just skip the hero. Take a month off, guys. We'll see you in January for Hawaii.
There it is. For me, for Geoff, for Tyler behind the glass. Good luck, everyone. Enjoy. You have questions, hit us up in Discord, hit us up on Twitter. But until next time, PGA strategy show here at Stokastic. Talk to you guys in the new year.